In this video, we're going to be going over the final authentication lab for PortSwigger Academy, the two-factor authentication bypass using a brute force attack. So the lab's two-factor authentication is vulnerable to brute forcing. We already have a valid username and password, Carlos and Montoya, but we don't have access to the user's 2FA verification code. To solve the lab, we'll need to brute force the 2FA code and access Carlos's account page. There's also a note here that the verification code will reset while we're running our attack, so we'll need to repeat this several times before we succeed. This is especially true for non-professional editions of Burp Suite. The new code may be a number that the current intruder attack has already attempted. This doesn't mean we can't do the attack with the community edition, it's just going to take a little longer and probably a couple of tries. So let's spin up our lab. So let's start off by walking the app. Let's go to my account. Let's log in as Carlos and Montoya. And now we need to enter a 4-digit security code. We don't know that code. So let's see what happens when we put in an incorrect code. We get that error message. Let's try again. And it logs us out. Okay, so because it logs us out after 2 attempts, and we have to sign back in just to get to that page, we're going to need to take the request that we just submitted and create a session macro out of it. So the session macro will save our process of logging into the application as Carlos, and that will be applied to every request that we send. So we're essentially automating our login before each request. So let's go over to Burp Suite, which should have been collecting our traffic as we moved around the website. Let's look at our journey through the application with proxy and HTTP history. Let's take note of the requests that we want to replicate for the login. So we have this get login request here, which is calling upon the web page to log in. We have this post login request, which is where we submitted our credentials of Carlos and Montoya. Notice we have a session cookie and a CSRF token, both of which verify us as we try to submit our 2FA token with each request. So if these are messed up, we'll get an error message in the response. Lucky thing that the macro that we'll create will automatically update them for each request. We also have this get login to page, which is us getting that 2FA page after logging in with Carlos's creds. We can see the please enter your 4-digit security code here. And finally, we have a post login to, which is where we submitted our MFA code. Notice that this one also carries the CSRF token and the session cookie. So if we look at the response, we see we get a 200 and that our error message is for an invalid code. So this is where we're going to focus our attack. The first thing that we need to do is create our session macro to automate our logins as Carlos. Go to the settings gear in the top right-hand corner and sessions. Under session handling rules, we're going to click add. Here we'll go to scope and we will include all URL. In details, we'll add a rule action and go down to run a macro. We're going to hit add under select macro. And here we're going to select the requests that we want to replicate every time we send a request. We want everything leading up to what we're actually attacking. So to select multiple requests, we're going to hold control and we're going to select this get login, this post login, and this get login to, because we're trying to brute force this post login to. From here, we're going to hit OK and then test macro. And this will test it to see if it does what we want it to do. So here we see our get login, which is us going to the login page. This is our post request where we put our credentials in and it gives us a session cookie and a CSRF token. And then we have our get login to, which is us getting that MFA code page. And from here we can now brute force that last page. So hit OK, and then OK, and then OK, and OK. And we should be good to go. So let's send that post login to request to intruder. And we'll add a payload position to our MFA code here. Now let's configure our payload, select numbers as our payload type. We're going to leave the type of number range as sequential because that is more effective than random. We're going to go from 0, 0, 0, and 0 to 9, 9, 9, 9. And we see that that gives us 10,000 entries. And we'd like our minimum and maximum integer digits to be 4 so that we can go through 4-digit codes with each request. We can see examples down here. And the last thing that we want to do is we want to go to Resource Pool and create a new resource pool, and then maximum concurrent requests. And we're going to set that to 1. We don't want to bombard the application. So let's go ahead and start the attack. We're going to hit this request column once and status code twice. And that will bring the highest status code to the top, and we can see our requests as they come in. So as we can see, we're getting 200 status codes, and when we look at the response, we are getting this incorrect security code. So what we're looking for is a 302 status code, which will mean a redirect, which indicates that we were successfully able to log in with whatever the payload was in the MFA code parameter. Essentially, when we get the 302, the payload is going to be the code that works for Carlos. Now, unfortunately, the codes do not last for very long, 30, maybe 60 seconds at the most. And so when the 302 pops up, we're going to have to act quickly. This will take a very long time. We are trying for 10,000 different requests. And so at any given moment, the code is going to be a specific 4-digit number, and we are just trying any sequence at that given moment in time. So we'll wait for the 302, and when it pops up, we can then go to the link and hopefully solve the lab. And one last note I wanted to make about this whole thing is that if we leave this alone for too long, there's a chance that the lab might close out on us. And so every once in a while, I will open up the lab page, and I'll hit this home button just to keep the pages going and the session alive. Oh, and we got lucky, so I'm going to pause this. We have our 302. We're going to right-click on this request, and we are going to show response in browser. And then we're going to copy that link out, and we're going to go over to our browser, enter that link, and hopefully we are logged in as Carlos. And there we are. We have successfully solved the lab. And that is everything for authentication. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.